Hey friends, happy Friday, the 16th of December. It's nice to take a moment and to pray with you. I'm Father Bill Hill, priest of Holy Spirit Catholic Community in Rock Springs, Wyoming. I will take a moment, give you a reflection on the daily readings. The readings are linked in the sidebar or down below. When I'm done, click the link, read the readings prayerfully, and then turn off the screen. Spend some time with God before you move on to other things. I'm encouraging you to be mindful of the Sacrament of Reconciliation sometime between now and Christmas. We'll be celebrating that individually tomorrow, Saturday, over at Our Lady of Sorrows from 2 to 3:30. And we have a community celebration of the Sacrament of Penance Monday night, 6 p.m., Our Lady of Sorrows, with priests from the region who will be present. And if those don't work, pay attention to the bulletin. We have some time Tuesday, middle of the day, and Wednesday night, and then next Saturday, the 24th, early in the morning. All right, get it done. This is the last day of the first part of Advent, kind of the larger preparing for the day of the Lord, being mindful of the last things, that this world is coming to an end. Tomorrow we start preparing for the last week, and that's more intentional preparation for the birth of Christ, the incarnation, God made flesh among us. So we have Isaiah and I think Luke. Is that accurate? I am really never getting the gospel right this Advent season. It's John. So Isaiah, we have, some faithful remnant sort of imagery here in Isaiah's prophecy, speaking about how God will be faithful to those who are faithful to the promises of God, especially in prayer, in observance of the Sabbath, in doing justice and what's right and what is good. It's especially towards the last portion of the prophecy that I would draw your attention. Them I will bring to my holy mountain and make joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and sacrifices will be acceptable on my altar. And remember, they didn't have a temple at this time. They didn't have a place to pray and offer burnt offerings and sacrifices. And they were not entirely sure how they were to pray to God, since so much of the law had been about burnt offering and sacrifices. So words of restoration. But then, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. And we look at that and we're like, oh, that's nice. But remember, it's not just the Jewish people. God is going to use the chosen people and is going to then make God's house of prayer a house for all peoples. And to remember that universal image of God who desires to bring all creation into newness, right? And we as Christian people hold that comes through Christ and comes through Christ who invites us into that relationship. Just invite us again to allow our hearts to imagine the day of the Lord that is so much grander, so much larger, so much more all-encompassing than we can imagine. To just ask the Lord to continue to expand our hearts. How is it that God's house, God's dwelling place, is envisioned as being a house of prayer for all the peoples? And how are we invited to participate in that? John's Gospel, we have Jesus speaking of John the Baptist. I especially like this line. John was a burning and a shining lamp. And for a while you were content to rejoice in his light. And not one of us knows our days. That's that's one of the themes of this first part of Advent, right? The day of the Lord, and the Lord who comes at the end of time, the Lord who comes at the end of our life, the Lord who comes in the midst of our dailiness. We know not our day nor our hour. John the Baptist died early, violently, awfully, for preaching truth, for speaking what was right. Jesus says he was a burning and a shining lamp. How about us? What's the Lord calling us to be today? How are we called to allow the light of grace, of truth, of justice, of mercy, of goodness to shine through us, and to allow others for a brief moment to rejoice in the light of God? We don't have to be John the Baptist or Mary, Jesus. God help us, we can't be. Who are we called to be today? What kind of grace do we need from God to fully live that calling? All right. Happy Friday. Think real hard about reconciliation. Read those readings prayerfully. Turn off the screen. Spend some time with God. God bless, friends.